Hi friends, welcome to a Miss Mindy Minute. This is a time where you as a student and I as a school counselor work on what can sometimes be the hardest things, heart things. During our time together, we will focus on ways you can work to make your heart and your actions and your choices to mirror the heart of Jesus. So I did a thing this week and I'm kind of loving it. So I'm going to do a self-brag. And by the way, it's okay to brag on yourself every once in a while when you're proud of an accomplishment, right? So here's my self-brag. I learned to dive. Now I know most of you are like, I've been diving since I was 10, and I would say, good for you. I wish I've been diving since I was 10 years old, but I've always had this fear of diving face first, you head in. Plus, there was something about trying to learn a skill in front of a lot of people at the pool that just kept me from doing it. I just didn't want others to see me fail over and over, so I didn't try in the first place. Now, can you relate? Does being afraid of diving into something intimidate you and keep you from trying at all? Does your fear of trying to learn a skill in front of a lot of people keep you from ever attempting it in the first place? Are you scared of having people see you fail until you succeed? Well, that was me. All those fears and intimidations had kept me from learning to dive until this week at age 41, and I determined to learn something that I'd always wanted to do. I set in my mind that I was going to learn to dive. My motto was this: whatever it takes, I want to improve. This attitude is the kind that comes with grit or perseverance. And I love what Angela Duckworth, she's a professor at the University of Pennsylvania, has learned in her studies with 16,000 people on grit. She has observed that we often value natural talent in others more than we value effort. We seem to marvel at natural talent in someone, such as America's Got Talent, right? And we discount our talent when going up against someone that we think has more talent than us or who is naturally gifted. However, in her research, Angela found that where talent counts once, grit counts twice. She developed this formula that said talent times effort equals skill. And there on your SEL Study Guide, you can write talent times effort equals skill, and skill times effort equals achievement. In other words, when you apply effort at a baseline talent, you get skill. And when you apply effort to skill, you get achievement. Science shows that grit or perseverance, the sustained application of effort toward a goal, is the biggest predictor of lifelong achievement. So, in order for me to learn how to dive, I knew that I needed to create an environment where I could sustain practice over a long period of time. That's perseverance, that's grit, right? For me, this meant that I needed to do it in a place where I wasn't worried about what other people thought. Angela Duckworth affirms this too when she advises gritty people avoid environments of distraction. So here's what I did. I found a lake on a mountain where no one was around. This would allow me to have the freedom to try, and to try without feeling embarrassed or self-conscious. In so doing, my first step, and you can write this on your SEL Study Guide, was carving out the time and place for practice. Next, my second step was to state what I wanted to achieve. It wasn't just something I said to myself, I want to learn to dive. It was something I said to those who matter to me and support me. By telling my husband and my children that I wanted to learn to dive, I was creating an accountability level beyond myself so that I had others who knew my goal and would cheer me on. By sharing my goal of diving with safe people, I developed an additional level of support and reason to stick with it. Then I went out and practiced. And according to Angela Duckworth, here's what she says: gritty people not only put in more hours than the next person, but they also fill their hours with intense, undistracted focus. Likewise, I would swim out to the dock in the middle of the lake and I would think, now is a good time to practice diving. Give it your best shot. Keep at it until you nail it. At first, I was really bad, but day after day, I would attempt to dive and end up with a belly flop. Time after time, I would jump in, ending with tweaked muscles and stinging skin from the water's impact. This is true for other gritty people, since science shows that when a gritty person gets a rejection slip, encounters a setback, or reaches a dead end, they are disappointed, even heartbroken, but not for long. So even gritty people end up with uh-ohs, right? And at times I would recognize this and say, okay, I need a break. Identifying when my body had had enough was important so that I could come back the next time and do it again. By taking breaks and allowing recuperation, I demonstrated that gritty people are stubborn, but they're not stupid, right? It was also challenging because there were times when my efforts elicited giggles from my husband and kids. After so many belly flops, they couldn't help but laugh at my effort. However, I ignored them and kept going. And Angela says that like a toddler learning to walk, gritty people don't waste time being ashamed or feeling anxious because they're busy seeking feedback or in improving. I wasn't worried about what they thought. I was worried about improving. Keeping my eye on the prize prevented me from giving up or getting discouraged. And then finally, the last step, after some serious water impacts and a bit of bruised ego, I did it. I dove head first without a major splash, felt the smooth glide through the water, and came up cheering for myself. It didn't matter that the others around me were cheering too. I hadn't done it for them. I had done it for me, and I was proud of myself. I had demonstrated the 4 steps of grit or perseverance. Here they are. I had 1, and write these on your SEL Your Study Guide, developed an intense fascination. For me, it was diving. For you, it's going to be something different, right? So develop an intense fascination for what you want to learn. Number 2, I had aimed for daily improvement by competing against myself for betterment. I wasn't competing against my husband who's been diving for 30 years. I was competing against me. 3rd, I reminded myself of the greater sense of purpose. And for me, the greater sense of purpose in learning to dive was that I could quickly dive in if I saw my child drowning. For you, your purpose might be greater in another way, helping others, serving God, something like that. And then finally, I had a growth mindset that my swimming abilities, even at age 41, weren't fixed, and that I was able to learn new skills later in life. I viewed my brain as plastic that could be bendable to gain new abilities like how to dive. So now you know how to be a gritty person. Won't you dive into making a habit of persevering with me? I know that was a bad joke, but God's not joking around, because He calls us to be gritty and persevere in Hebrews 11:36. And here's what He says. You must hold on, persevere, and endure so that you can do what God wants you to and receive what He has promised. I want to do God's will by being a persevering follower of His. Don't you? That's all for today's Miss Mindy Minutes. Until next time, bye-bye.